That doesn't look right at all. That's better. This week on Click, we're looking at the movie world in some depth. Literally. As 3D cinema rears its head once again, and director James Cameron finishes the most anticipated 3D movie ever, we'll look at the technology behind and in front of the screen, in a report that consists of several people poking their fingers in my face. Plus, why celebrity is the name of the game. We'll look at the pastimes with A-list playlists. That, plus the latest tech news and the best of the web with Kate in Webscape.
Don't worry, I won't hurt you all. Just get them.
Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly, and welcome back to Hollywood, if you hadn't guessed. Yeah. Now, as you know, the movie industry always likes to make things wider, brighter, louder, bigger, and longer. But 2009 is a very special year for cinema, because this year movies promise to also get a whole lot deeper. Now this is the way to move house. Disney Pixar's latest release, Up, is the story of a widower who decides to add a new dimension to the idea of a mobile home. Released in the UK in October, it's aptly named because it's one of a growing number of movies being shown in 3D. 2009 is actually a big year for 3D. It's the first year that every major studio has a 3D movie out.
Welcome! We are here to destroy you!
And at the end of the year, a 3D release that's expected to be the most expensive movie ever made. It's called Avatar, and it's been created by this man, director James Cameron.
Thank you.
And we'll hear from the man himself in a few minutes. If you hold your finger up in front of your face and then look through just one eye and then just the other, you'll instantly see how 3D works. I'll give you an idea of what I can see through each of my eyes. See how my finger obscures a different part of the Hollywood sign depending on which eye I'm looking through. That's because your two eyes view the world from slightly different angles, and so objects appear to be in slightly different positions. And in fact, the closer something is to you, the more its position shifts from one eye to the other. It's then up to your brain to combine these two images into one super view of the world in which you not only know where everything is around you, but you also know how close everything is to you. The result in the cinema is a double image. The audience wears special glasses to block one image from each eye to create the illusion of a three-dimensional scene with depth. So why should 3D cinema work this time around, having famously failed in both the 50s and the 80s?
We have your dog!
The answer, unsurprisingly, is digital. Sharper, more steady digital projectors and digitally created, computer-generated, fully animated movies. Turns out it's pretty easy to make these in 3D. Every scene simply needs to be rendered from two slightly different angles. Live-action movies can also be filmed in 3D. Here, you need computer-controlled digital cameras with two lenses to capture the two viewpoints. These particular cameras have been developed by Burbank-based 3reality Digital, which specialises in filming commercials, music concerts and sporting events, all in 3D. And this is the kind of image they capture. Do not adjust your eyes. But it's only half the story. The camera's linked to specially developed software, which corrects any small variation between the lenses on the fly. It'll also warn the director if the shot is likely to be uncomfortable for the audience's eyes to watch. Green is good, red, not so.
Everybody going to a 3D movie expects one or two of these shots. and it's a given.
3Reality's Digital Systems CEO Steve Schler explained that 21st century 3D is less about poking you in the eye and more about being subtle and immersive.
But there's a language of 3D that hasn't been developed yet, and those are the shots that we're waiting for in terms of how do you use the depth to help tell your story. For instance, we use color to help tell the story, we use shape, we use line. We do a lot of things when we're making movies to make audiences feel certain ways. I can associate a certain character with blue backgrounds. No matter where they are, they have a blue background, and all of a sudden they have a yellow background, and the audience gets very uncomfortable. They don't know why, but I've changed something, and they're uncomfortable for the character. If we could start using depth in that same manner, where we're always associating characters with certain types of depth, and then we do a change-up, that's starting to use the 3D language to for what it's best at, which is another tool in the toolbox for filmmakers.
But filmmakers need to wield this new tool carefully. 3D movies make your eyes work in an unnatural way, and too much extreme 3D can lead to eye strain and headaches, especially for older viewers whose eye muscles aren't as flexible as they once were.
People are still figuring this out, but I think the evidence is growing that to really make a movie that works well in 3D, you actually do have to make it a little bit differently. For one thing, as you edit, the fast cutting style that we've seen in action movies doesn't work as well because you have to give the audience time to physically readjust their eyes between shots. That style is much more difficult to pull off unless you turn the stereo effect way down. And I think that will affect how movies are made to some degree.
Is there a danger then that a movie made specifically for 3D will be boring in 2D?
That is absolutely a danger, and it is part of why filmmakers like Jim Cameron are being very conscious of having to make a movie that works in both formats. I think that one of the risks that we have at this moment of transition, which is going to go on for some years, is that movies that are made for both formats won't be ideal in either one.
Schler disagrees.
We have a tool that lets us move the entire shot, because the depth is baked in, forward towards the audience or backwards away from the audience.
By moving the two images together or apart, he says his software can correct any sudden and uncomfortable changes in depth after the scenes have been shot. And that means fast cutting is possible without making people's eyes jump around too much. But what does this guy say? James Cameron has a lot riding on his forthcoming 3D release. It certainly sounded to me like he was treading very carefully. How much of a gamble is 3D for Hollywood? I mean, is it a gimmick?
The gimmick part of it is really up to the individual. You can be as in your face as you want to be, or, in the way that I use it, I think of it more as a window into a reality. So we're not constantly poking you in the eye with one thing after another. And so, you can look at a 2D version of a 3D movie and see all of the dumb 3D gags that were fun in 3D but look stupid in 2D because you're hanging on things too long, and why is that spear being held, in my face?
It's a good point though, because as a director, surely you want to really use 3D to the max. Do you feel hampered by the fact that it really does have to be backwards compatible to 2D, which is how most people are going to see it?
It was the big question we had to answer before we spent hundreds of millions of dollars making a movie. We had to say, is this movie going to be in any way compromised in its 2D presentation? Because the reality is, in the short term, the DVD is still going to be in 2D. 3D DVD will be coming eventually. So, we had to be making a great 2D movie, which, oh, by the way, was also in 3D.
Gimmick? Maybe. Gamble? Definitely. But is it one that the industry, the individual cinemas, and the audiences can afford? It costs more to make a 3D movie, it costs more to show it in the cinema, it costs more to go and see it. Do the numbers add up?
In the long run, it will probably depend on the emergence of 3D television, which is more on the drawing board now than it is a reality. So the revenue for 3D movies is limited entirely to theaters. That works if you're talking about the extra $15 million it took to make Monsters vs. Aliens a 3D picture. But if you're talking about a live action picture where the 3D investment could be much greater, the numbers become much more difficult.
So, the future of 3D cinema depends on the emergence of 3D TV. But surely 3D TV will only catch on if there's enough content for it. And that must take us back to 3D cinema, mustn't it? Of course, some people say that the main reason 3D has failed in the past is because the glasses looked stupid. Thank goodness they've sorted that one out. Now, the latest tech news.
Welcome to the clash of the titans. Yahoo and Microsoft have gotten together to take on their chief rival, Google. The essence of the 10-year deal sees Microsoft's Bing search engine powering the Yahoo website, whilst Yahoo becomes the advertising sales team for Microsoft's online offerings. The new service will have around 30% of the search market, leaving Google with a mere 70%. We don't suppose they're losing much sleep yet. Apple has rejected Google Voice iPhone app, a service offering free phone calls and text messaging. Apparently, the app too closely resembles the iPhone's built-in features. The music service Spotify is hoping to avoid a similar fate. It's just submitted its iPhone app, which gives users a streaming jukebox of tracks, as well as the ability to store tracks on the device itself. That could be a little too close to iTunes for Apple's comfort. USB 3 is on its way, or super speed USB, if you're a marketing person. It's the next version of USB, and it's going to be 10 times faster than USB 2, delivering up to 5 gigabits of data per second, which should be enough. Fujitsu Microelectronics has begun shipping the chips to peripheral manufacturers to build into their latest products, which should be appearing in early 2010. Apparently, we're buying 2 billion USB devices a year. Expect that number to grow. Finally, for fans of Twitter, the British government is here to help you. Published on the Cabinet Office's website is a 20-page document on how various government departments can tweet on issues of relevance or upcoming events. For what it's worth, the advice says that doing Twitter, that is, checking and writing and browsing your account, should take no more than an hour a day. An hour? They're clearly new to this game, aren't they?
Chaps, break it up. Peace and love, peace and love. Give him his card back. We'll all be a lot happier. Now, as we've heard, 3D cinema is one way for movie stars to reach out to their audiences, quite literally. Hanging around outside shopping centres seems to be another. But some movie stars are reaching out to a completely different audience altogether, the gaming fraternity. Richard Taylor's been finding out why Hollywood is getting playful.
You're the chosen one, Harry.
He's the boy with the magic touch, not just on paper, nor it seems even just in Hollywood. These days, Harry Potter's also busy sprinkling a weighty helping of magic stardust into another world altogether. As with so many spin-offs, the video game franchise too has been a surefire winner. It's not just that the pixelated Potter has looked like his Hollywood Harry. He's also sounded true to the original too. No great surprise, as the original cast lend the games their voices in the name of authenticity, and presumably the terms of their own contracts. But recently, the relationship between actors and their avatars has begun entering a more creative phase. 5 years ago, Grand Theft Auto Vice City made headlines for various reasons, but one of the lesser-known facts was that the voice of the protagonist is none other than Hollywood hotshot Ray Liotta. No movie heritage to call on here, just good old-fashioned voice acting in an original gaming title.
Remember, smile at the other cops. Hey there, officer. Nice badge, nice badge.
These days, it seems everyone's at it. Last year saw the latest instalment of the Call of Duty franchise. Again, no movie legacy, just a gripping first-person shooter with a celebrity twist.
Fire!
Kiefer Sutherland plays an army commander, and alongside him, another Tinseltown import, Gary Oldman. Both accomplished actors, both voice acting parts totally unrelated to any movie.
Is that it?
And this year sees a ramping up of the trend, with several titles featuring celebrities you may not even recognise. Hollywood's love-in with the world of video games is a sign that gaming itself is entering the mainstream. It's not just being embraced by pop culture, it's now firmly a part of it. In part, it's down to consoles like the Wii, which have apparently bought out the hand-waving hidden gamer in us all.
The video game industry has grown so much over the past 2 years. Now we're reaching a point of we're reaching a mass critical point to where video games is no longer a device for, males 11 to 35. Video games is now for everybody.
Gaming may be for everyone, but for actors, there's the chance to play their part at the vanguard of popular entertainment.
Washington called this a simple op. But given the chance, Murphy calls your bluff.
Rogue Warrior, a forthcoming tactical shooter, stars Oscar nominee Mickey Rourke, appropriately playing the potty-mouthed Navy SEAL Dick Marchingo.
I don't really think people at this point yet are comparing the two as far as somebody's performance in a video game opposed to a feature film or something like that. There's not. It's two different genres still.
Ruby.
That's undoubtedly true, but for some actors, video gaming's now becoming the new black. Ruby Malone is a smouldering character in the upcoming game Wet. A perfect fit then for Buffy and Dollhouse star Eliza Dushku, who told me these days it's de rigueur to be in with the gaming fraternity.
Video games have almost become, it's now acceptable and cool again for grown-ups or people that aren't, just in their teens to play them. I mean, and I know so many people, friends, actors, directors that are older and that used to maybe play in private, but now they can kind of say it loud and proud.
Actors play games, and it's almost bragging rights to their game friends that they can say, oh, I was the voice in that game.
There is, of course, no denying the economic pull, too. The marketing men can offer big bucks to the likes of Beyoncé, because individual titles are selling more than ever. And celebrities, well, they just resonate with us.
These are people that we follow. We know their likes. We know their dislikes. We know when controversy happens. We see them in the stores. So when we see them play these games, they have they do have an influence over us in the very same sense that our peers have influence over us. And there's another aspect to it as well. Celebrities are permission givers. When a celebrity does something, whether it's taboo or something that's socially acceptable, they're sending a message to everybody who looks up to them, who respects them, that they're sending a message that it's okay to do this.
But before we get too carried away by celebrity involvement in games, it might be wise to keep a check on matters. Are more Hollywood A-listers going to be involved in gaming in future? Let's wrap on a surprisingly sober thought from Mickey Rourke.
What I'm going to say to you honestly is when I go out or I see another actor, whether he's an A-lister or not, believe me, we're not going to talk about the video game we did this week.
Richard Taylor on the new generation of video games are spattered with celebrities. Anyway, now to someone who's a legend in their own lunchtime. It's Kate Russell, hello, with Webscape.
360-degree photography is all the rage right now. You're not even on the map until you've been snapped in glorious, high-resolution panoramic view. And that is very good news for all us armchair tourists. At 360cities.net, you can access literally thousands of stunning, all-round images from across the globe. Many of the best tourist attractions are featured here, so you can travel around the world in a lot less than 80 days. Start your tour by looking at the editor's picks and most popular posts, both available from the homepage. Just click the arrows beneath the image to move to the next one. If you're looking for a more specific destination, click the world map on the right of the page to launch the world map. The interface here is a lot like the popular Google Earth package, so it should be easy to find your way around. Use the controls to pan and zoom in and out, and when you see a flag for a location you want to view, just click the image to open the 360 viewer. You can even embed the images into your site for non-commercial use. Well presented, with enough stunning content to keep you busy for months. If you'd rather get out there and see the world in person, then you might find this next site a real breath of fresh air. There is nothing worse than getting a bum seat on a long-haul flight. But SeatGuru.com has all the inside information about where to put your behind for the most comfortable ride. This is actually a site from the people at TripAdvisor, which we showed you last year. Here, all the major airlines are listed in the panel on the left, with basic information such as phone number and website address available from the first click. But it's when you click the airplane details in the extended menu beneath that you discover the magic of this site. Here you can see diagrams of all the models they fly, with clear and full descriptions of where the good seats and the bad seats are. Your travel agent should be able to tell you what type of plane you're flying on when you book your ticket, and then you can use the information on this site to ensure that you get the best possible seat, or at the very least you aren't squashed up against the rear wall with only the lavatories for company. And finally, a little look at a blog I came across this week, which I rather like. And you can quote me on that. OK, so that was a fairly tenuous link, but thequoteblog.com is definitely a destination to bookmark if you want a library of smart things to say. The subheading here is interesting quotes by interesting people, and they really have picked an eclectic group of celebrities, which is, I think, one of its charms. There are quotes from such preeminent figures as Abraham Lincoln, Ernest Hemingway, Aristotle, Socrates, and Paris Hilton and Britney Spears. All the quotes are nicely illustrated, giving the site a much more attractive presentation than most of its peers. Which brings us to the end of our selection of web wonders for today. But don't be sad. In the words of Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And anyway, you can relive the whole collection if you visit our website, which Spencer will be directing you to shortly.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, bbc.co.uk/click is the website address. There you'll find all manner of exciting things about this week's programme, including a video stream of the entire show and our extensive back catalogue too. And don't forget to email us on anything and everything you've seen this week. Click at bbc.co.uk is the address. That's it from Click in Hollywood. Back to Blighty, I suppose. Thanks for watching. See you next time.